This is He Knows Everything, bringing you that heat that far. When you're looking at basketball and you're comparing the likes of a Kobe Bean Bryant with a LeBron James, you have to ask yourselves big picture questions here. What is that? How are their games defined? LeBron James has been basically fabricated as a locomotive, a specimen on the basketball court that no one can stop. Basically, a basketball player that people think he can just do whatever. Well, if that's the case, why did he have the meltdown in 2007? So people talk about 2011, they talk about the Dallas Mavericks, but they don't talk about 2007's NBA Finals. It's as if that doesn't count. He had an epic blowout game in the playoffs with the Detroit Pistons. He basically dominated in the Eastern Conference Finals. So his next evolution was to show in the NBA Finals that he was going to step up, show out, and be that dominant basketball player. But what did we find out? What we've always found out since St. Mary's, that LeBron James folds under pressure. Heck, when he was in St. Mary's, it was little Uncle Drew, the point guard, that was taking the last shot. See, they tell you LeBron James make the supposed right play. You know, it's like Gilbert Arenas when he revealed himself as LeBart and LePaid for. Basically spit on the Michael Jordan and the Kobe Bryant game and said that that's the game that we were basically lied to and deluded to, that that's the only game to greatness. It is the only game to greatness. Magic Johnson, when the game was on the line, Magic Johnson was not passing the ball. Go look at when Magic Johnson was 20 years old. Go look at when Magic Johnson put up 42 points in his first year out of that 10-year span that he played in the 80s. Magic Johnson basically put up 42 points in an NBA Finals when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was injured. Magic Johnson was dominating. He wasn't passing the basketball. Larry Bird, when the game was on the line, he was not passing the basketball. Larry Bird was putting buckets in the basket. Basketball at the highest levels is judged by that. Guys that are on the NBA pantheon of greatness are not passing the ball when the game is on the line, unless their shot is not clicking, unless they're being doubled and triple teamed, unless they're in a position where they have no choice but to pass the ball. But they're not passing the basketball. LeBron James does this because LeBron James hates pressurized situations. And that right there is a big knock when we're talking about greatness and we're talking about basically the annals of greatness, and we're talking about comparing apples and oranges with a LeBron James and a Kobe Bryant. You have to acknowledge that. You have to put that in the back of your mind. You have to mention that. And if you're not mentioning that, you're not mentioning basketball. This is how basketball is judged at the highest levels. This is how greatness personification is judged. So, a Michael Jordan revealed and took the assassin's mentality to the next level. Kobe Bryant's footwork is heavily undertaught. Kobe Bryant's footwork is off the charts. This man's ability to put the ball on the floor, to get separation from the defense, to feel the defense with his legs. I mean, he took every advice Michael Jordan gave him and he took it and he amplified it to the extreme. This guy mastered the game of basketball. He mastered everything that you can do, shooting the basketball, free throws, up and unders, pump fakes, basically defense. See, a lot of people don't talk about that. They think of Michael Jordan, they think of the fact that Michael Jordan had 9 all-first defensive teams. Kobe Bryant had 9 all-first defensive teams as well. Kobe Bryant dominated on the defensive side of the ball for a decade until he got older. So when we're asking ourselves, who's better between Kobe and LeBron, you have to ask yourselves an even bigger picture here. Who's dominated the game on both sides of the ball better? See, these are the questions you have to ask yourself. And when you come to these underlying concurrence and underlying conclusions, you realize that Kobe Bryant is by far the superior basketball player. because Kobe Bryant did it every night on both sides of the court. Now, there was a period as he got older and he got in an advanced age, he wasn't defending like he was supposed to. Same thing with Michael Jeffrey Jordan. But no one can take away from the fact that these guys for nearly a decade dominated the way they did on the defensive side of the ball. And when they got older, they did in fourth quarter moments and situations try to guard the best player. Kobe Bryant was doing this with Kyrie Irving. That is crazy. That is insane. When have you seen LeBron James pick up a Kevin Durant? Michael Jordan was doing this against Karl Malone at an advanced stage. I mean, you guys have to understand the mentality of a Kobe Bryant. So when we ask ourselves who's the better player, you don't listen to no nonsensical Gilbert Arenas. We listen to the basketball eye test. The basketball eye test, the intangibles, tells us that Kobe Bryant is unstoppable. LeBron James is not unstoppable. You listen to NBA peers, you listen to NBA players, they respect LeBron James's ability, but they feared Kobe Bryant. That's a different level. Respect and fear, that's a different thing. They knew when Kobe Bryant played on the basketball court, they had to lift their level of play up. They had to play at their most ultimate abilities. Same is the case for Michael Jeffrey Jordan, but not with LeBron James. LeBron James was like, okay, he's LeBron. We respect him. We respect his ability. We respect the fact that he's 6'8", 260, 270. He got some size on him. But they understood there was limiters. There was ways to limit LeBron James. Foul him. He's petrified of the free throw line. He basically averages anywhere between 60 to 70%. Basically put LeBron James in position where he has to try to beat you in pressurized moments. These are still things that haunt LeBron James. So when a Gilbert Arenas says that he makes the right play, and I want you to go and look at Gilbert Arenas' assessment of it. LeBron James passes the ball to Danny Green, who is basically covered. When you make the right play, you're supposed to pass it to the open guy. Danny Green was being covered by another guy. And LeBron James does an erroneous thing in basketball 101. They don't talk about this. He jumps in the air and passes the ball. That's a big no-no in basketball. You don't jump in the air and pass the ball. You're supposed to pass the ball while you're grounded. Because if you jump in the air and pass the ball, that opens transitional steals. See, they don't talk about that. They don't talk about the fallacies with LeBron James. LeBron James doesn't have a post game. Tell me when you found LeBron James have a refined post game. You have not seen that. LeBron James is not a basketball player who works on his footwork. His footwork is choppy. All you see is court vision. Barely that. And what you see is a guy that's stat padding. But with Kobe Bryant, you see a guy that has a refined basketball game. You see a guy that put the time in, put the work in to ensure that he put fear in his opponents. That's the difference. That's the distinction. That's the delineation, the gulf, and the separation between a Kobe B. Bryant and a LeBron James. One guy had his opposing defender afraid of him, scared of him, literally petrified of him. And the other one has mere respect. Respect does not come into the same bracket with fear. It does not come in the same bracket of petrification. It does not come in the same bracket of someone being scared of you. This is how Kobe Bryant evolved his basketball game to that competitive level. So when we look at basketball and we're judging it at the highest levels, there's no comparison. You start your NBA team, you're starting it with Kobe Bryant. You're not starting it with LeBron James. Because of everything that Kobe Bryant meant to the game of basketball. It took until Kobe Bryant's death for people to start realizing how impactful this guy was on the basketball court from both an offensive and defensive side of the ball, and how he's impacted people's minds. We haven't seen this since Michael Jeffrey Jordan. When has LeBron James ever impacted your mind? When has defenses feared LeBron James to the point to where they had to change everything up? They have not done that. Because in the scouting report, they understand that LeBron James has limits. Kobe Bryant don't have those limits. The only limit they gave Kobe Bryant was when they screwed him in 2011 and they didn't allow Chris Paul to come. They vetoed that because they knew that if Chris Paul, Dwight Howard joined that Los Angeles Lakers team with Kobe Bryant and Paul Gasol, then LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh are literally screwed. They understood that. And that's why they vetoed it. This is how dominating Kobe Bryant was. Do you realize that David Stern, the NBA commissioner, for years, when they were doing the puppet between Kobe and LeBron, he was finding ways to save LeBron James from not playing Kobe Bryant. The way that Kobe Bryant was dominating the game of basketball in 2009 and 2010, if LeBron James played Kobe Bryant in those NBA finals, do you know how embarrassing those NBA finals would have been for LeBron James? Do you understand how much Kobe Bryant would have imposed his will? That's why I laugh, I scoff at guys that think that LeBron James has an opportunity against a guy like a Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant one-on-one. These are the ultimate one-on-one basketball players. These are the ultimate basketball players. They mastered everything you can think of on the basketball court. That's why it's laughable. It's scoffing to find people leapfrogging LeBron James over Kobe Bryant. When you do this, it reveals that your basketball knowledge is limited. It reveals that you don't understand the game of basketball. And it reveals that you're basically saying that a complete package, a stimulus package basketball player is inferior to a guy who has limits. I'm going to say that again. You're saying that a complete package, a stimulus package basketball player is inferior to a guy who has limits. Who's the complete package? Who's the stimulus package? It's Kobe Bryant. LeBron James is the inferior basketball player. Have you listened to Larry Bird? When I want to have fun, I play with LeBron. But when I want to win again, I play with Kobe Bryant. Because Larry Bird understood that Kobe Bryant was an assassin's mentality player. He has not seen this since the likes of Michael Jordan, when Michael Jordan was burning his ass up. Do you understand why that Boston Celtics team thrived over the Bulls? It was basically 1 against 5. Larry Bird understood it at that time. Now, Larry Bird said something that was a fallacy. Well, I would limit Kobe. No. As a matter of fact, Larry Bird, your shots would be limited. Kobe Bryant would be the alpha male over you on that basketball team because he has Michael Jordan's mentality. He has the assassin's mentality. So when we sit here and we look at Kobe Bryant and we look at LeBron James, we have to ask ourselves and be honest with ourselves in dissecting these guys' game. Who is the more complete basketball player? And if you don't come to the conclusion that it's Kobe Bryant, then you really need to get your head checked. Now, if that's not the cold-hearted, that's not the unadulterated, that's not the cutthroat truth teller fashion, then I don't know what it is. This is He Knows Everything. Checking out.